Have you ever sat with yourself and wondered, am I falling behind in life? Like maybe no matter how hard you try, you still feel like you're not where you should be, like you're running in place while everyone else seems to be sprinting past you, smiling and glowing and winning while you're just surviving. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something right off the bat. You are not alone in that feeling. We live in a world that constantly pushes the message you're not doing enough. You should be more. You should be further ahead. But what if I told you that so many of those thoughts, those harsh judgments, that pressure, that invisible measuring stick, what if most of it is just noise? You see, we're often taught to celebrate only the big wins, the promotions, the engagements, the six-figure moments, the Instagrammable success stories. But what we don't talk about enough are the quiet victories, the ones no one claps for, the ones only you and God might ever see. Like waking up this morning, even when everything in your body wanted to stay in bed. Like choosing not to send that text you knew you'd regret. Like making a decision that honors your peace even though it's hard. Like finally forgiving yourself for something that's been haunting you for years. We overlook these things. We brush them off. But you know what? They're not small. They're powerful. They're sacred. You might be sitting here thinking you're stuck or lost or late to the party. But what if I told you you're actually doing better than you think you are? This video isn't about false positivity or pretending everything's perfect. It's not about hyping you up with generic motivational slogans. It's about offering a mirror, a gentle, honest, real mirror, so you can see yourself the way I see you, the way your Creator sees you, with kindness, with truth, with grace. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk with you through 7 powerful signs that show, yes, show that you're not failing, you're growing, you're not lost, you're becoming, you're not behind. You're just unfolding in your own divine time. Some of these signs may feel small, some may feel uncomfortable, some might even surprise you. But I promise you this, if you recognize even one of them in your life, it means the work you're doing matters. It means your story is still being written, and you're already further along than your fears want you to believe. So let's take a deep breath together. Let's pause the pressure, let's quiet the noise. And let's take a moment, just one moment, to see ourselves clearly. You're here, you're trying, you're learning, you're growing, and that is something worth honoring. Let's begin. Section 1, you're setting boundaries, even if it still feels unnatural. Let's talk about something that feels small but is actually massive, the word no. It's wild how such a short, simple word can feel so heavy to say right. How just 2 letters can trigger guilt, doubt, awkwardness, or even panic. But here's the truth that no one says enough. Learning to say no, learning to set boundaries is one of the clearest, strongest signs that you are growing. Think about it. Maybe just a year ago you were saying yes to everything. Yes to favors that left you drained. Yes to conversations that stole your peace. Yes to environments that didn't respect your spirit. And now, even if it's uncomfortable, you're starting to choose yourself. You're learning how to step back when something doesn't feel right. You're learning to protect your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, even if people don't get it. You're not always over-explaining, apologizing, or begging for understanding like you used to. That shift, that decision to draw a line between what drains you and what feeds you, that's not just maturity, that's transformation. And no, you don't need to be perfect at it. You might still struggle to say no without second-guessing yourself. You might still have that voice in your head whispering, "Are you being too much?" But let me tell you something. Even trying to honor your boundaries is proof you're no longer living for other people's comfort at the expense of your own. That's healing, that's growth, that's power. Sometimes growth isn't building something new, it's tearing down what was never meant to stay. When you start honoring your boundaries, you stop begging for scraps of respect. You stop performing for love. You stop pretending to be okay with things that actually hurt. You start choosing peace over pressure, alignment over approval, truth over comfort. It doesn't always look loud. In fact, most people won't even notice, but you will feel it. You'll feel a little freer, a little more grounded, a little more you. That quiet peace inside of you. That's your soul saying thank you. So if lately you've been walking away from what drains you, even if you can't explain why, even if it makes you feel guilty, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not selfish. You are becoming whole. And that, my friend, is something to be proud of. Section 2, you're choosing growth over comfort. There's a moment in every person's journey where comfort stops feeling comfortable. It starts to feel more like a trap than a cushion, like wearing a jacket that used to fit, but now it's tight in all the wrong places. That's how growth often begins. Not with fanfare, not with fireworks, but with discomfort. And if you've been feeling a little restless lately, like your old habits don't satisfy you anymore, like the conversations you used to enjoy now feel empty, like you're craving something deeper, something real. That's not you being lost, that's you evolving. You're outgrowing versions of yourself that once helped you survive. You're stepping into a new season where growth matters more than fitting in. And no, it doesn't always look productive. Sometimes growth is reading books that challenge you. Sometimes it's journaling about your childhood wounds. Sometimes it's choosing silence over drama, solitude over chaos, stillness over hustle. The world glorifies doing more, but you're learning to be more. And that's the kind of growth that sticks. The kind that rewires how you think, how you love, how you exist in the world. Maybe you've started listening to podcasts instead of gossip. Maybe you've started questioning your patterns instead of blaming others. Maybe you've looked in the mirror and asked, what do I really want from this life? And that question alone has started a quiet revolution inside of you. That's what real growth looks like. It's not always aesthetic, it's not always visible, but it is always valuable. Every time you choose to face the hard truths instead of running from them, you're becoming. Every time you sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, you're healing. Every time you get back up after falling, even if you fall again tomorrow, you're building resilience. Growth isn't a destination, it's a posture. It's the daily choice to keep leaning in when it would be easier to check out. And if you've been choosing that lately, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when nobody else claps for you, then let me say it clearly. You are not stuck. You are shifting. You are not failing. You are forming. You are not behind. You are building something deeper than success. You are building a life aligned with your soul. And that, my friend, is one of the most beautiful things you could ever do. Section 3, you're still standing after everything you've been through. Let's pause for a second and get really honest. You've been through a lot, haven't you? Maybe more than most people know. Maybe more than you even give yourself credit for. There were moments you thought you wouldn't make it through, and yet, here you are. You're still standing. I know you don't always feel strong. I know you carry invisible scars. I know some days still feel heavy, even when nothing's gone wrong. But surviving what you've survived emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that matters, that counts. That is not something small. You may not be where you want to be yet, but that doesn't mean you're not somewhere sacred. Pain changes people, and not always in the way we expect. It doesn't always make us harder. Sometimes it makes us softer, wiser, more awake to what matters. Sometimes it teaches us how to love better, how to notice the little things, the way sunlight spills into a quiet room, or the way your favorite song still makes you cry. You've been reshaped by your storms, and though they tried to break you, they didn't win. No, you're not perfect. You've had breakdowns, you've made mistakes. You've ghosted people when you were hurting and lashed out, when you didn't know how to ask for help. But healing isn't about pretending none of that happened. It's about being able to look back and say, that version of me was doing the best they could, and I love them for surviving. You see, we often wait for healing to look like peace and clarity and closure, but sometimes healing just looks like choosing to stay here in this moment with your heart still open. And if you've made that choice even once, then let me remind you of something important. You are not weak for feeling things deeply. You are not broken for needing time to heal. You are not failing for still grieving something you thought you were over. You're human, you're healing, you're trying, and that is enough. So the next time you look in the mirror and feel discouraged, I want you to say this out loud. I'm still here, and that is a victory, because it is. Section 4, you're learning to celebrate small wins. Let's talk about the quiet victories, the ones that don't show up on Instagram, the ones that no one else might notice, but that you feel deep in your chest. Waking up early even when it's hard. Eating a real meal instead of skipping another one. Taking a walk when the anxiety hits. Answering that hard email. Showing up to therapy. Saying I love you first. Saying I need help. We often dismiss these things as ordinary, but they're not. They are sacred moments of self-respect. Because here's what the world gets wrong. We are taught to only celebrate when something big happens. When we lose the weight. When we land the job. When we finally make it. But most of life isn't made up of big moments. It's made up of small ones and the courage it takes to keep going through them. It's showing up to your life even when nobody's clapping. It's doing the next right thing, not because it's exciting, but because it's aligned. And if you've been doing that even on days when you're tired, discouraged, or afraid, that is a win worth celebrating. You don't need to wait for some giant breakthrough to feel proud of yourself. You don't need someone else to validate your efforts. You don't need a finish line to honor the fact that you're running the race. You're already living the transformation right here, right now. So here's what I want you to remember. Every time you make a decision that aligns with who you're becoming, you are winning. Every time you respond with love instead of fear, you are growing. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are rising. And even if no one else says it, I see you, I'm proud of you. You're doing better than you think you are. So tonight, instead of beating yourself up for everything you didn't do, pause, breathe, and thank yourself for everything you did. Because those little things, they're building something unshakable. And one day soon, you'll look back and realize it was never small. It was always sacred. Section 5, you're no longer hiding who you really are. Do you remember when you used to shrink? When you toned yourself down to fit the room, laughed at jokes that didn't sit right, agreed with things just to avoid conflict? We've all been there silencing our own voice just to feel safe, liked, or accepted. But something in you shifted. Maybe it happened quietly. Maybe you didn't even realize it at first, but slowly, almost without warning, you started coming home to yourself. You stopped apologizing for being too quiet, too loud, too sensitive, too ambitious, too different. You stopped playing roles just to make other people comfortable. You stopped living a version of yourself that made them happy and started choosing the version that makes you whole. And even if you're still figuring it out, even if you sometimes doubt yourself or feel exposed or awkward or scared, that's okay, because letting the world see your real self, that's one of the bravest things a human can do. It's not easy, is it? To share your art, to speak your truth, to show up without the mask you wore for so long, but you're doing it. Maybe you're dressing differently now in a way that actually feels like you. Maybe you've started saying what you really think, even when it's unpopular. Maybe you're finally exploring dreams you buried because someone once told you they were unrealistic. That's not rebellion, that's liberation. And yes, it might come with discomfort. Some people won't understand the real you. Some may even fall away. But the ones who stay, the ones who see you fully and choose you anyway, those are your people. That's your tribe. That's your home. Authenticity isn't about having it all figured out. It's about having the courage to say, this is who I am right now, and that's enough. You've started embracing your quirks. You've stopped needing to explain your existence. You're realizing that your uniqueness isn't a flaw. It's your fingerprint on the world. And if you've even begun to taste the freedom of being fully yourself, hear me. You're not becoming too much. You're becoming true, and the world needs more of that. Section 6, you've let go of what no longer serves you. Letting go sounds poetic, but living it, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. We hold on to things for a reason. Habits that numb us. People who once meant everything. Beliefs that felt safe even if they kept us small. But growth demands release. Not because what you let go of was all bad, but because it no longer fits where you're going. And if recently or even over time, you've released something you once clung to, you're doing something powerful. Maybe you walked away from a job that gave you stability, but stole your joy. Maybe you ended a relationship that felt like home, but no longer felt like love. Maybe you dropped an identity, the achiever, the fixer, the people pleaser, because it no longer reflected who you are. That's grief, yes, but it's also grace. You're making space for what truly belongs. You're no longer carrying the weight of what doesn't. And even if it doesn't feel triumphant, even if it just feels empty right now, that emptiness is sacred. That space is the invitation for something new. We don't talk enough about the courage it takes to unclench our fists, to stop white-knuckling the things we thought we needed to survive. But here you are loosening your grip. Here you are trusting that what's meant for you won't need force to stay. Letting go doesn't always mean walking away. Sometimes it means releasing the need to fix, the obsession with closure, the shame that keeps looping in your head at night. And if you've been practicing that, even quietly, even imperfectly, that's not just healing, that's evolution. You're shedding what's heavy. You're allowing things to fall away. And in doing so, you're making room for alignment. Letting go is an act of faith. It says, I may not know what's next, but I trust what's no longer meant to stay. So here's what I want you to remember. Namadabashtanimon, Subiyamartiadino. You haven't lost your way. You're just leaving the old road. You haven't lost your worth. You're just finding it in new places, and you haven't lost your power. You're just finally claiming it. One release at a time. Section 7, you haven't given up on hope. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is keep believing. Not in some fairy tale ending, not in everything working out perfectly, but in the simple, quiet truth that something better is still possible. Hope is not naive. Hope is not weakness. Hope is not denial. Hope is choosing to open your heart again, even after it's been broken. It's choosing to dream again, even after disappointment. It's choosing to trust, not because the path is certain, but because you know you were made for more than just surviving. If you still have the capacity to imagine a different kind of life, if you still catch yourself whispering, maybe one day, if you still feel that pull in your chest that says, there's more for me, that is not delusion, that is sacred, that is divine. That is life refusing to give up on you. Maybe you've had seasons where hope felt like a burden. Maybe you've buried dreams because it hurt too much to want them. But even then, even in your darkest moments, something in you kept going. You didn't let your heartbreak become your whole identity. You didn't let your past define your potential. You didn't let the voices in your head drown out the whisper in your soul. And that whisper, the one that says, don't quit yet, it's still there. That's how I know you're not done. That's how I know there's more coming for you than what you've lost. Hope isn't loud. Sometimes it's a flicker. Sometimes it's the breath before the prayer. Sometimes it's a quiet, exhausted, okay, one more try. But if you still have that in you, if there's still a part of you willing to keep walking, then I promise you this. You are not starting over. You are starting from experience. You are not broken. You are being remade. You are not lost. You are just on a road no one else can see yet. So don't let go of hope, even if it feels small, even if it's the only thing you have left, because that might be the very thing carrying you into your next breakthrough. Closing, you're doing better than you think you are. Take a breath with me, right here, right now. No pressure to fix anything, no need to perform, just breathe. You've made it this far, that matters. You've shown up for yourself in quiet ways most people will never understand. You've grown in places no one will ever see. You've become more yourself, more whole, more honest, more awake, even when no one was watching. And that's the kind of progress that lasts. You're not failing just because life looks different than you expected. You're not behind just because the timeline changed. You're not unworthy just because it hurts sometimes. You're doing better than you think because you're choosing healing. You're choosing truth. You're choosing to stay in your story, in your body, in your becoming. So the next time you feel like giving up, the next time that voice creeps in and says, you should be further along, come back to this. You're growing, you're rising, you're exactly where you need to be. This journey you're on, it's sacred, and no matter how messy it gets, no matter how many detours you take, no matter how slowly you move, it still counts. You still count, so keep going. Not because it's easy, but because the life you're building, the you you're becoming is worth it. And I promise, one day you'll look back and realize you weren't lost, you were blooming. In your own time, in your own way, in your own grace. You're doing better than you think you are. And I'm proud of you.